If you're ready to stop building someone else's dream and start creating your own, join our free community, the Self-Directed Network, at acesmanagementinc.com/school. It's where people leaving their W-2s come together to build freedom, purpose, and momentum toward what's next. Today, I'm talking with Nikki Holbrook, who made the leap from graphic designer to entrepreneur with a mission to support women-owned businesses. After years of navigating different roles and corporate challenges, Nikki took the plunge into entrepreneurship during the pandemic, a move that reshaped both her career and her mindset. In the episode, she opens up about the realities of building a client base, the power of outreach, and why she shifted to a product-based pricing model. Nikki also shares the mindset shifts that helped her grow and the lessons she's learned about running the business side of creative work. Let's get into it. Welcome to Life After W-2. I'm your host, John Chan. After 17 years in corporate America, I made the leap to build my own business. It was messier than I thought it would be, but also full of valuable lessons I didn't know I needed. This show is about sharing shifts in mindset, pivots in strategy, and personal changes that come with pursuing financial freedom. You're not alone in this. We're all figuring it out, one step at a time. Welcome to Life After W-2. Nikki, great to have you.
Hi, John. Thanks for having me.
So tell us a little bit about your life, I guess, before business ownership.
So I went to school for graphic design and was a fine arts major, and decided when I was in school, I interned twice, two different places as a graphic designer. One place was a nonprofit, another was an advertising agency for pharmaceuticals. And while I was at those two internships, I knew that I was doing the right thing, that this was what I wanted to do. But graphic design is such a vast industry, or just a vast amount of things that you can do with that type of skill set. And so I ended up finding a job right out of college at Nutrisystem, which I was a web designer for them. And so I did a lot of digital design, which was kind of new to me at the time. When I was coming out of school, I really wanted to do print, but I knew that it was a dying medium. And so I decided to take the leap and work on this digital platform, and decided that I really loved it. I had a great boss at the time who taught me how to do coding from scratch, HTML, CSS, that she really took her time to help me figure that stuff out. And so I was able to use that on the job and learn how to do that while I was working. So that was a really cool skill that I gained. And from there, I just continued on with that path of digital design, and ended up kind of evolving into a UX designer within my role, kind of into brand design, which was really something that I love. So I was focusing on a lot of different realms, but specifically loved working within marketing design. So communicating to customers, or, businesses, like for B2B type businesses, to be able to help them purchase or make that move. So that's the stuff that I really loved to figure out and understand.
So it sounded like you had a pretty good gig in terms of you loved your boss, you had opportunities to learn new things, you enjoyed what you're doing. So then what made you decide that you wanted to leave and go off on your own?
Yeah, so I went through a lot of different roles, a lot of different companies throughout my career. I was going to these different positions because I kept feeling like I would hit a wall of monotony within my roles. Just got to the point where I felt like I couldn't grow anymore. And so I would go to the next role hoping that I'd be able to grow even further, but wasn't looking for upward momentum when I was looking at that next job. So, I kind of stayed at the same level throughout my different roles, except when I went to my last role, which was at Vanguard, and I was a senior user experience designer. And so while I was there, I realized that senior UX was just not my bag. I was not a UX designer. I really loved marketing design, but always felt like I was being kept from growing within my role. I wanted to do more of a creative director, art director type role, but just never felt like I could get there for some reason. I was getting glowing reviews and recommendations, but just never saw that upward momentum financially or just title wise. And so I decided to take my future into my own hands. I really didn't love UX, and decided that I just wanted to help the smaller guys. I wanted to do something that felt a little bit more meaningful. At the time, I was transitioning right in the beginning of 2021. So I had just gone through COVID, or we were still in COVID. So priorities were changing. I was thinking a little bit more about wanting to do something that really mattered to me. And I wanted to help people, specifically women owned businesses, feel like they can leave their 9 to 5, take their own career into their own hands like I wanted to. And I wanted to help them do that. So that was my main mission when I left my job.
Got it. Okay. So then you're looking for ways to grow and improve, but you keep hitting walls. And
Mhm.
then from the time that you make the decision that I'm going to go off on my own to actually making that jump, how long did it take and what kind of preparation did you put into it?
Yeah, so I didn't prep. It was kind of like a just head first jump in. I know a lot of people are surprised to hear that. It's kind of a funny story. At the time was obviously we were all in COVID and things were just kind of like it was a YOLO moment. I was deciding that I just didn't want to be unhappy. And so I went and did it on my own. Thankfully, I had a husband that was, able to kind of contribute to the household income. So it wasn't something that was too scary. We had some in savings and things like that. So that was something that I knew I had connections for to be able to do some freelancing on the side anyway. I had a lot of connections from my old jobs. And so I was able to spin off pretty easily. The funny story is I was reaching out to a influencer on social media one night because I really admired her content and she was a chef. She's called Dope Kitchen. She's a chef that cooks food in her kitchen while she's under the influence of marijuana. And so she would cook healthy recipes and like good, like just delicious food.
Mm.
And so I told her, I was like, you need a cookbook. Can I make it for you? And she responded and she's like, I don't think I'm ready for a cookbook, but I'd love to do a logo with you. And it was fate because it was the day that I actually quit my job that she had
Right.
responded to me. And so it was kind of like the universe telling me like you made the right move in doing this. And so it felt right. And from there it was just kind of figuring it out, honestly. So
Yeah, that's amazing. So you reached out to someone that whose content you enjoyed, and instead of going and asking for something, you led with value. You said, "Oh, why don't you do this?" And you found a way to bring value to her, which is not what most people do.
yeah. Yeah, and that's honestly like a lot of the jobs that I get right now is surprisingly through cold outreach. I've been getting a lot of because I focus on branding and websites. It's hard to keep that consistent, flow of customers even though people love working with me. The work afterwards kind of fizzles off because I
Mhm.
design websites to empower business owners to be able to do those edits and changes on their own. I don't want them to feel strapped down to having to pay for a web designer. And a lot of the clients I work with can't afford that. And so I do a lot of cold outreach to find my customers. And the way that I do that is specifically looking for people that I really want to work with. Like I'm looking deeply and looking at their website, looking at their social media, and sending them a video to give them like a little bit of an audit of everything that's going on and what they could change and update. So giving them value before they're even asking for it. And even if I don't know if they're interested or not, I'm giving them a little bit of feedback and just telling them what they're doing well and what they could improve on. And that typically is a really great way of getting my foot in the door and just like starting the conversation because I'm not trying to be salesy. I'm just letting them know that these are the
Mhm.
things that you could do. I'd love to keep in contact. If you have any questions, I'm here for you.
Yeah, that's a really good approach. Instead of because a lot of times with cold outreach, I mean, I get it all the time where they'll pitch themselves, but it's not. But you kind of go in and say, "Well, this is a customized version of how I can help you."
Mhm.
And so that's a great approach. I mean, what do you think is your conversion rate?
It's pretty high, honestly. I wouldn't say that it's 100% all, but I,
Mhm.
I would say for every three, I get one response of like wanting to connect and talk about it. So that's like typically what I'll get back. I wouldn't say that everyone is like a closed sale, but
Mhm.
normally we're working towards some sort of long tail conversation of getting work at some point. So yeah, it's a pretty effective way of finding people at this point. I know that it's like unconventional, but it has been really helpful for me, especially with some of the networking groups that I've been part of to learn about people and meet people that way too.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great approach.
Thanks.
So you had your first client, I guess, free was Dope Kitchen, and then what was the next 6 to 12 months like for you?
Yeah, so Dope Kitchen wasn't free. She put her foot down and said, I'm paying you. I don't care.
Right.
I'm paying you for this. It wasn't a lot of money, but it was enough for me to be like, okay, I can do this.
Well, I just meant free from like the corporate world.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
But yeah, for the next 6 months, I think it was kind of just figuring out what it was that I wanted. I don't think right away I knew that branding and web design was specifically that niche that I wanted to do. Like I said, I had a lot of corporate connections. And so I was using those connections to find freelance work for agencies, for internal house, marketing teams. I was reaching out to those people and saying, like, can I just work for you hourly and get some work done for you? I had a lot of success doing it in that way, but I quickly started to realize that it was really hard to work in the hourly model as a designer because I am so, senior, that I have all of these skills that, make me work quicker and better. And so I was kind of doing myself a disservice by working hourly for a lot of these businesses because I was trading my time and not, kind of burning out by the end of the month because I wasn't able to actually do the business part of things. I was working more in my business than on my business. So that was a big learning for the first, like, probably year of time when I was there or doing this.
So then you switch to instead of an hourly model, just like a product based pricing.
Yes. Yeah, so I started to dip into looking at what it would look like to build out branding. I was building out full brand guides for people, doing websites, specifically no build websites, not, involved code or anything, working in Squarespace, which is something that I find to be really useful and helpful for my clients because it's easy to use. It's easy to understand in the back end of, how your website's performing and understanding where people are coming from, things like that. But overall, I was starting to learn what the things that I liked to do were. And so I started to build out those packages. So at first it was a little shaky. I was just kind of assuming the amount of time it would take me to do it, what that would cost. Um, and so it was kind of just back and forth and figuring out what was happening, looking at how much time it took me. So as a designer, if there's anyone out there that's a creative, make sure you're like timing yourself. I know it's a pain in the butt, but looking at how much time you're spending on everything is really helpful to be able to know how much it really costs you to do it, including the marketing for things and the stuff that you're spending time doing that isn't necessarily for the client. So there's a lot of that work too.
Yeah, it's just amazing because when coming from a financial and accounting background, it's all about the numbers, and it's very easy to determine. There's a lot of metrics that are very easy to determine, right? But then when you're in the creative space, you could have a design take. I mean, is it pretty similar in terms of the amount of time it takes to design a package?
What do you mean? Can you
Like, is it a
clarify that
stand? So if
question
you
a little bit?
have, I mean, how do you measure something like that? Because you have to essentially come up with say, oh, it's going to take me X amount of hours to come up with a logo, and then how many times you have to go and tweak it. Like, how do you quantify something like that?
Yeah, so a lot of times it's I am thinking more about the hours and kind of figuring out the average of how much time it's taking me to do that work. And then, like you're saying, like with tweaks or edits, putting limitations on those things. So something I've learned as I've gone, built out this, I now do website in a week and branding in a week, building out these packages, is that there needs to be strict boundaries put in place. So the client knows going into it that there is only one, edit per, send off any kind of designs that I send to you. You only get one edit per until we move on to the next step. So there's clear boundaries there. There's amounts of time that I'll spend. So it's really nice doing the in a week projects because I'm focusing strictly on their project for that week. I am booked out for them only. And so it allows me to focus all of my energy on that one project. And so I'm able to put out a better quality product, but also I'm able to keep myself sane by only working on one thing at a time. So, yeah, going into that, I'm thinking about all of the elements that have to be involved in that. So, it is the edits, it is the conversations, the emails back and forth, it is the marketing pieces that go in place to make that sale. So, how much marketing time I include that in my pricing to think about, how much time it takes me to get those those jobs so that I'm ultimately making my financial goal by the end of the month because I can only do so many websites in a month based off of just doing them in a week.
Where'd you learn how to do all this?
So I was a fine arts major for graphic design. So I did a lot of working within, the creative cloud. So working with Adobe, with Photoshop and Illustrator and all of that stuff. So design is just to me an easily transferable skill that I've been able to do within digital design. And so with websites, I kind of just fell into Squarespace. I think it was one of the platforms I started using for my portfolio when I was interviewing for jobs to show people my work, and it was one of the easier platforms to use, but I never really thought of it as something other than that. I wasn't looking into the performance of the website, but I think that Squarespace has come leaps and bounds from where it was when I first started.
Mhm.
Because they have added so many additional plugins, additions, and additional like just features to their platform that allow you to do so many other things. You can have a membership portal now. There's so many different options for you to have other ways of making money than just having that website up. So it's a really cool tool, I think, and super easy to use for people to get started.
Yeah, so you went to school for arts, and that's kind of the route that you've gone. But then a lot of what I hear is like one of the biggest gripes about school is that if you're not majoring in business, you don't learn
Yeah.
about business. So then where did you learn that aspect of
Yeah.
going off on your own?
I'm still learning about business, honestly. I think that's something that has been the biggest learning curve. I think I had you know, an additional help in my role as a marketing designer. I understood marketing really well because I was within these marketing teams. Specifically, one of my jobs, I worked at Aweber, which is a email marketing platform. So they're like a competitor to MailChimp. And so I learned a lot about content there, and getting, conversion content and things like that was something that I had never understood before with any of my other roles. I did a lot of just like marketing pieces, banners, things like that, and was just kind of doing production. And when I was at Aweber, I was kind of the sole designer for the marketing team. And so I was very involved in a lot of those conversations about marketing pieces and learned a lot about those skill sets. So I knew how to communicate my work and to promote it. But when it came to the business pieces, that was something that I've had to learn a lot about. I've looked at several different resources, but I've also had to network and communicate and talk to other people to learn from them as well. So that's been a lot of the learning that I've gotten from the business side of things. I didn't have that going into this for sure.
Got it. Because I mean, you explained it very well, so that's why I was just
Oh, I
curious.
appreciate that.
Yeah. So then, what was the toughest part of your transition?
The toughest part of my transition. So I think being a 9 to 5 worker, especially as a designer, graphic designer within, corporate in-house teams, you're a lot of times treated like a workhorse a little bit. And you're kind of strapped to your computer. You're constantly working. My last job at Vanguard, there was a lot of meetings all day, and then I'd have to work after work. So it was a lot of working all the time around the clock. And when I started doing this, I started to feel like I'm not working as much as I was before. I'm not strapped to my computer. I'm able to go to the gym in the middle of the day. Like, is this okay? Am I lazy? Like kind of questioning that lifestyle and changing that time. So in the beginning, I was strapping myself to my computer and I was sticking to that, I can't move, I can't leave type of mentality. But then I started to do things and I started to realize like it's okay. I can be this way. I can take time. So I think that was the biggest mind shift, was being able to recognize that you can balance your life and career when you're doing it yourself a little bit differently than you would otherwise if you were, being paid by hourly, I guess hourly, but salary with other jobs within the corporate world. So I hope that answers your question.
It does, because I've still struggle with that where, I was working consulting, so it's a similar spot, and
Right.
not working, I don't feel like I'm working as much, and so I get worried. So yeah,
Yeah.
uh, definitely a big shift, but I mean, you get to do things that you get to do more things for yourself now, right?
Yeah, and I mean, part of that is I was able to go and see, like, my parents are retired and, I get to go see them and stop over and I go to the gym with my mom on a regular basis, during the week. And so I get to see people that I wouldn't normally see otherwise in my family because of this position. And so I'm not a mom, but I know a lot of people that, have children. They decide to make this move so that they're able to be with their kids and be with their families and do those types of things. And that was a big incentive for me too, was feeling that I wasn't stuck doing anything or forced to do anything. I'm the type of person that doesn't like to be told to how to use my time. And so that was a big upsell for me, was being able to, take a vacation whenever I wanted to, or go and do the thing and work from the hotel or something. So having that flexibility was a big bonus for me, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So, just out of curiosity, what is a book that had a huge impact on you?
Yeah, so I am not a huge reader, but I do listen to audiobooks. And
Hmm.
one of the things that I started to do in 2020 was ride a Peloton. So when everybody started to jump on board with the Peloton thing during, the shutdown, I got one too. And I'm not sure if you've ever done any of the Peloton classes, but there is
Hmm.
an instructor, Tunde, and she is one of the hardest cycle classes that you can take on Peloton. And she has a book. I forget the name of the book is escaping me, but it's a biography about her and her life. And she reads the biography. Yeah, yeah. The way that she communicates her path is really interesting to me. She has a lot of different experiences throughout her career that got her to where she is now. And because she is a woman of color, she's gone through a lot of experiences that a lot of people don't get to experience or see. And so it was really cool to hear her perspective and to kind of understand her career path. I really enjoy hearing about other people's career path, which I think is really cool that you're doing this podcast, because it is really helpful for other people to understand real stories about how it can happen and how you get to where you want to be. So seeing other people that you identify with and being able to say, that person did it, maybe I can do it too. So it's inspiring, but it's also like a roadmap for you a little bit too.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, it seems like there's a lot of pretty similar themes when it comes to making that leap.
For sure.
It's kind of cool to hear from different aspects of I guess different people from different industries.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's something that I've recognized the most coming into this and networking and talking to other people, women business owners in general, is that they're all there's an overlap of a story of how people have gotten to where they are, whether it is that they were in corporate or not. Like there are certain themes that I feel like kind of overlap when people become entrepreneurs. Like there's a certain spirit that people have that kind of make them feel like, hey, maybe I should try this out. And so I try to tell people like progress over perfection. Like don't,
Mhm.
you know, force yourself to feel like you have to, put yourself in a box to be able to be successful. Everyone's path looks different, but there is a certain level of reasoning behind it and whys that I feel like are very similar in people's beginnings.
I had to make myself better. What's one of the biggest mindset issues you've had to get over?
So I do a lot of therapy because I just am a human and it's, tough out there right now. But I think one of the things that is really tough for me is I'm really hard on myself. I'm kind of a perfectionist with a lot of things. And like I'm saying, like I just said, progress over perfection. I tell all of my clients that I have the workshop that I do, and I tell people that in regular fashion, like after every slide, basically. And that is something that I try to remind myself, is that in order to move forward, it might not be perfect. It might not be like the best polished thing, but just put it out there, just do it, just try it, just see what happens. And things aren't always going to work out perfectly, and they might not work out at all, when you first try it. But that's how you start the iteration process. That's how you make things better, is, keep trying and try, keep moving forward essentially. And so I think in the beginning, when I first started, there was a lot of over analysis of a lot of things and planning and trying to figure out how to get things accomplished, overthinking a lot of stuff because I was too afraid to put it out there and for it to not be perfect. And I think that is something that I've had to overcome, is being able to just put it out there, and maybe it's not the best work in the world, but it's enough for right now.
That's definitely a valid fear. What if you throw it out
Mhm.
there and people either pick it apart or don't like it?
Mhm. Especially creative. I think it's like design is just such a nebulous thing and people always have opinions about it, whether it's good or not. I mean, I've been looking, I don't know if you've seen on LinkedIn or any other like social media platforms, like all of the, conversations about logo changes. So with Cracker Barrel, that whole like
Mhm.
brand
Oh yeah.
update happened, like things like that, where there's these like huge public outroars about
Mhm.
like branding design and just like changing the logo. And as a creative, I'm looking at that and I'm like, that's actually a beautiful transition. And I completely understand why they did it because there was strategy behind it. But like, not everyone sees that. Not everyone understands it. And so it's really hard to help people understand those things because everyone's seeing the surface level of the
Mhm.
design. They're not thinking about the deeper piece of it. And so I have so much sympathy for those people that are like publicly dragged through the mud with those designs because I'm sure there was hours and hours and tons of meetings that involved, strategy and conversation behind them. And now they're like being, pulled apart piece by piece. So yeah, that's something that's really scary with design is like you never know how people are going to feel about what you're putting
Mhm.
out there, especially when you're working with a client because they don't always get it sometimes. And so you have to make people, I mean, part of what you do is customer service, you're trying to make your client happy and give them what they want, but it's not always gonna be exactly what you want too. So,
Yeah, I think that's hilarious because I remember seeing the uproar about that change, and I didn't
mhm,
think much of it because I'm not, designer. Cracker Barrel is just restaurant,
sure.
but we all just think about the logo itself, and we don't think about, or a large majority of us do not think about the amount of hours and the number of people that were involved in making that change.
Yes. It was not even just the cost of what they spent on paying that agency or that designer to do the work. It's also the amount of hours that there were reviews internally, there was meetings, there was a ton of money that went into these types of efforts. And it's not even just about that. There's a lot of strategy that goes behind design. And I like to try to tell people that because I've had several, people come to me. They're like, I just want a logo. I just need a logo.
Mhm.
And I have to tell people, I don't do just logos. I'm thinking through the whole strategy because I'm doing you a disservice if I just make something pretty for you. Like it has to attract the right audience. It has to be meaningful to your mission and your core values. Like there has to be reasoning behind all the things that we're choosing. And so it's always an interesting conversation whether people I'm trying to like coach them and show them why this is helpful. And a lot of times it's really fruitful to me when people are like, wow, you get me. I understand why you're doing this. Like this is awesome. And so like it's kind of hand holding and showing them the design process and why we're doing what we're doing. A lot of people don't see that in the front end. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm probably one of those people because I'm all about the numbers, but I do after this whole conversation, I have a greater appreciation for design because I
Yeah.
don't think it's something that I could do.
Yeah, and that's the thing, a lot of the people that come to me are not designers, they're not creatives, right? They're not coming to me and they don't understand what they need because if they did, then they would be doing it themselves, and so when they come to me, they're surprised that there's so much that goes into it, that there's so much involved and thought behind all of it, and if you're not getting that thought from your designer, like if you're just going to Fiverr and getting some random old designer, you're not going to get a meaningful experience a meaningful logo or branding experience that's going to allow people to understand who you are and connect the right customers. That's something that I try to hit home with my clients is that it's all about communication, like visual storytelling, essentially. And
Mm.
you're trying to attract the right people and you're trying to communicate who you are. I really try to work with people that have a strong core value set, a mission statement, things like that that have drawn them to their career and what they're doing. A lot of times when people are doing their own business, they're doing it for a deeper reason than just making money. And so my job is to, with people like you that are more kind of just like looking for the results and everything else, understand that this strategy is part of the results. It's part of what you're going to see with the numbers. You're going to get the right people because I'm thinking in this way. For an example, if you're working with someone who wants to work with high-end clients, people that are going to pay more, you want your logo to reflect that. You want your branding to feel high end and feel expensive. And so there are certain things that we do to make it look that way. That's kind of a surface level, just kind of, kind of a small thing, but there are a lot of reasons that we choose colors and fonts and different things that give a feeling that people maybe can't quantify, but you understand when we walk through it in the process and I build it out for you.
Yeah, it makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
So one question I like to ask at the end is, knowing what you know now, what's some advice that you'd give to yourself before you made that jump?
I would have learned a little bit more about business. I would have understood a little bit more about a business plan and figuring out, the nitty-gritty about money and knowing that I had to pay quarterly taxes and all of the pieces about being a business owner that maybe I didn't know jumping in. Um, I say that now, but like I'm fine. I never did anything that was like illegal or I didn't mess anything up too badly. But at the same time, I wish I would have given myself a jump start in figuring out all of those pieces before jumping in and doing this. But will never regret making the leap ultimately.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. It's hard, but you'd rather do it this way than the alternative.
Right. Yeah.
Well, Mickey, it's been great to have you. How can people reach out to you and work with you?
Yeah, so I'm on social media on Instagram and on Pinterest, but you can go to my website directly on flowerbudscreative.com and reach out and set up a phone call with me, and we can talk about your needs and figure out what the right fit is for you.
Very cool. And just to make life easier, as always, we'll put the links in the description just to make it easier for everyone.
Awesome.
And Nikki, it was so great to meet you.
It was great to meet you as well. Thanks, John.
That's it for today's episode of Life After W2. I'm John Chan, and I appreciate you tuning in. If this episode resonated with you, share it with a friend who's ready to take control of their financial future. And if you're curious about how self-directed retirement accounts can unlock opportunities in alternative investing, grab our free guide. It's packed with insights to help you get started. The link's in the description. See you next time.